Jai Hind viewers, we are back with you in continuation of MRO Digest Dialogues, wherein we showcase specialist knowledge on related subjects. The topic today is self-reliance in MRO of defense systems. We are privileged here today to be taking the thoughts of Lieutenant General Kapil Aggarwal, AVSM, SM, VSM, and retired, who is not only an alumni of IIT Kharagpur, where he did his post graduation in electronics engineering, but he has been having a checkered career in the army and retired as Director General of EME, besides tenating other important assignments. He has in-depth knowledge of all defense equipments as well as their MRO needs. He also had a stint as a chairman of 7th Pay Commission, besides being a technical advisor to government of Mauritius. He is currently on the advisory panel of a government organization and deeply and seriously committed to national growth and development. Welcome, General Agrawal, for our dialogues on the MRO related issues. We are very happy to talk to you on the related issues. Sir, I would like to understand, in your wisdom, what is the scope of MRO activities in defense?
Jai Hind viewers, and thank you, General Ashok. Thanks for your kind words about me. Coming to your query, scope of the private sector MRO industry in defense, I would say it's a very apt question, a good starter if we have to discuss the topic of self-reliance in MRO of defense systems. To begin with, while answering this query, I like to start with an overview of the weapon systems and warlike equipment which is held by Indian Air Force, Army, and Navy. We are all aware that it consists of fighter aircraft, transport aircraft, helicopters, armored fighting vehicles, guns, missiles, radars, surveillance equipment, communication equipment, warships, submarines, etc., etc. So you see a very, very wide inventory with different levels of technology, which includes equipment with obsolescent technology, current technology, as well as state-of-the-art cutting-edge technology. Now, the sustenance of this vast inventory of weapon systems and equipment, whose book value is in billions of dollars, affords extensive opportunity for MRO for the private sector. As far as MRO industry in India is concerned, currently it is mostly limited to the aviation sector, little bit in the railway sector, and as far as defense is concerned, there is a little bit participation of private sector, especially those who are in collaboration with the foreign OEMs and doing work on their behalf. Now, in addition to this existing inventory, we also have to consider the annual acquisitions of weapon systems and equipment by the defense forces, which is to the tune of at least 100 lakh crore per year. Now, this also adds up to the MRO requirement, because whatever equipment is inducted into service ultimately will have to be maintained, sustained, repaired, and overhauled. Presently, the figures for the MRO industry in India is little above 10,000 crore per year. This is slated to grow at a rate of about 8% annually. And if MRO in defense is taken up by the private sector in a meaningful way, it is estimated that the MRO industry would be at least worth 30,000 crore by year 2030, growing at an annual average of around 15%. So even if 5 to 10% of the expenses incurred on the acquisition of new weapon systems is it comes for the MRO of the weapon system and equipment, it will open up huge opportunities for the private industry, for the MRO industry in private sector. This, I would say, then defines the scope of MRO industry in defense.
Thank you, sir. In fact, in your deliberation in the response of this question, you have not only highlighted the current rate of growth, which is close to 8%, but you have also highlighted clearly that even if we put in some kind of serious thought towards these activities, the rate of growth will be 15% and beyond. So the scope apparently is very, very wide. But sir, the MRO activities, though they are reasonably well understood by the maintainers, especially in the defense, but the people outside do not have that kind of clear understanding of MRO activities undertaken in defense. Could you throw some light on as to how these MRO activities are taken in defense, sir?
I think it's a very pertinent question you have raised, General Ashok, because for understanding the complete scope, we have to first understand the system which is being followed for the MRO in the defense forces. Now, typically, the defense forces undertake MRO in three levels: O level, that is organizational; I level, which is intermediate; and D level, which is the depot level. Beyond depot level, there is also factory repair, but this factory repair is resorted to only when deemed economical based on level of repair analysis or under special circumstances. Now, out of these, the O and I level repairs, they are largely taken in-house. In-house because the weapon systems and equipment are mostly deployed in field areas or remote locations which are away from not only the metros but industrial hubs. Together with the requirement of in-situation repairs, called in-situ repairs during operations of war, the O and I level repairs have to be largely undertaken in-house, and there is trained manpower available for that to undertake this entire gamut of MRO activities. As far as D level is concerned, there is inbuilt in-house capability. There are base repair depots, dockyards, base workshops, where D level repair is undertaken, for which the special technical infrastructure is required, established, and modernized from time to time. However, some of the D-level repairs are also undertaken by DPSUs, which have supplied the equipment, or ordnance factories. In some cases, foreign OEMs are also involved in D-level repair, where the technology is only available with them, and for that, the assemblies or engines or modules are taken to the premises of the foreign OEM, whether India or abroad. This then sums up the setup of MRO activities in defense.
Thank you very much, sir. In fact, our viewers will be now having a clear understanding at three different levels of MRO activities, be at O level, I level, or the depot level, and also as to how these things are made applicable to the productions in the country and outside the country. But sir, you would have realized in your service that despite the best which is being done, the users, the maintainers, and the decision makers face tremendous amount of problem of getting the quality MRO support. So, in your wisdom, sir, what are the challenges of MRO in defense?
Yeah, a very pertinent question again, General Ashok. There are enormous challenges of MRO in defense, and I'll spell out what are the challenges, starting from the the start point being the range and depth of the equipment inventory itself. I've given you an overview of the weapon systems and warlike equipment. If I talk of the range and depth for army, let us say there are more than 1,500 warlike equipment, and they number more than 30 lakh. So the numbers itself gives you an idea of the MRO challenge. The second is the deployment. The employment and deployment of these weapon systems and warlike equipment, as I've already brought out, they are deployed in remote locations. So the repair work or the overall has to be taken as near as possible to the point of their deployment. This then is another challenge. The next challenge emanates from the technology levels. As already spoken, there is an obsolescent technology equipment which has almost outlived its shelf life, or in some cases, even its shelf life has got extended. Then there are certain current technology equipment and newly inducted equipment, maybe with state of the art technologies. So all these three levels of technologies have to be sustained simultaneously. I'll give you an example. See the helicopters, the Cheetah and Chetak, origin French Alute helicopter, technology of the 1960s. They are still in service. While now we also have the ALH, the Advanced Light Helicopter, which is manufactured by Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, HAL, and the newly inducted Chinooks, manufactured by Boeing. So just one equipment, that is just transport helicopter. I am giving you the range of technologies from 1960s to the current and the state of the art. Now, if you have to sustain such a wide variety of equipment with different technology levels, it requires technical infrastructure for O level as well as I level as well as D level. Whatever infrastructure is already existing needs to be upgraded and modernized from time to time. And of course, as we are aware, there are limitations of the defense budget. And this becomes, for the government to undertake this periodic modernization itself becomes a challenge. As far as new acquisitions are concerned, new acquisitions for their MRO, new technical infrastructure is required, more investment, either by the government sector or funded by the government sector by the OEM. Next is the requirement of reskilling and retraining the human resources. Since newer and newer equipment are inducted with cutting edge technologies, the human resources have to be continually trained. They have to be sent to the premises of the OEM, and in government sector there is a constant turnover. People retire, new people are inducted, the new people required to be trained, new soldiers, technicians required to be trained. So there is a continuous churn, and the reskilling and retraining of this human resources itself poses a significant challenge. However, the biggest challenge in the MRO activity could be the non-availability of the required assemblies, sub-assemblies, modules, and spares, because of which the MRO activity, whether at O level or I level or D level, can get delayed or held up totally. This problem of non-availability of spares straddles all levels, all the three levels. As we are aware, for the spare support, the defense forces are dependent upon either the ordnance factories or the defense public sector undertakings or the foreign OEMs from whom the equipment has been purchased. The private sector is also there. It does, manufacture some assemblies or spare parts of warlike equipment, but not much. So, to overcome this very big problem of the non-availability of requisite spares, there is need for indigenization, there is need for innovation, and definitely there is need for harnessing the energies, the skill, entrepreneurship spirit of the private sector.
Thank you very much, sir. In fact, the kind of enormity you highlighted related to MRO in defense, to me, it has been a really great learning. But you also, in the end, mentioned something about the indigenization. The government of India today has focused in this particular domain in a big way. On one hand, it has taken out three negative lists by prohibiting imports in those facilities or in those equipments or components. At the same time, it has taken out four positive lists containing 410 items wherein they want to go for indigenization. So there is a huge buzz about the equipment part as far as indigenization is concerned. Now, as you had also highlighted earlier, that the with the introduction of the new kind of weaponry, MRO has to be also looked at that with that kind of seriousness. So, in your wisdom, sir, how can indigenization support the MRO activities in defense, sir?
Thank you, General Ashok, again highlighting a very important subject of indigenization and its role in attaining self-reliance in MRO of defense systems. The positive lists and the negative lists you have already brought out. I will, for the role of indigenization, I will start with, the problem of legacy equipment. By legacy equipment, I mean equipment which has outlived its shelf life. Maybe it has got an extension because of economic reasons, the replacement equipment not being available. So, this equipment, which is legacy equipment and has an old technology, obsolescent technology, but it has still to be maintained either because of operational requirement or because of economic constraints. A lot of this legacy equipment could be of imported origin, and there is need for upgradation of this equipment as well as technology insertion. For this, what requires to be done is platform-based indigenization, in which the complete engine assemblies, sub-assemblies, modules are indigenized, upgraded, and then the complete platform integrated. There is a huge untapped potential for this platform-based indigenization. The ongoing Russia-Ukraine war has also revealed, newer opportunities. Some of this equipment, which is of foreign origin, which is not only in the inventory of India, but some other developing countries also. And these developing countries are now starved of the support from Russia or other East European countries. So they look up to the Indians to give them support. A recent example is, I think, the Sukhoi aircraft, the MRO talks on with Egypt for maintaining the Sukhoi aircraft, which is being manufactured under license by Hindustan Aeronautics Limited. So this has opened newer and newer opportunities for indigenization, for establishing MRO hubs in India, by the private sector, which could grow into international MRO hubs in future. In addition, as we have spoken, there are hundreds of lakhs of crores of equipment being acquired every year. All this equipment requires MRO planning also for the times to come. So in case we are able to identify the fast moving and critical parts, assemblies, modules, which are required for the MRO of the imported systems, and then we plan to indigenize them, start planning immediately on induction. So this will have a huge potential in years to come and a huge role for the private sector, provided whenever we import such equipment, we include this in the contract itself, that the indigenization of these assemblies or modules is permissible. Now, apart from this, I've already mentioned that the non-availability of spare parts, assemblies, modules, which hinder the in-house MRO of the warlike equipment and weapon systems in the defense forces. Now, there is huge opportunity again to indigenize or manufacture these spare parts, which for the most part, the defense forces are dependent upon the ordnance factories and DPSUs. Private sector or the MSMEs have a role here to manufacture these spare parts, to become part of the MRO inventory management chain, and in times to come, establish manufacturing facilities under Make in India for these items required by the defense forces. We have, as of now, the defense corridors established by the Government of India in various places, Aligarh, Lucknow, Tamil Nadu, etc., where the focus is on manufacture. As far as the defense is concerned, the focus is on manufacture of defense equipment, warlike equipment. Now, apart from this focus on the manufacture, if these defense industrial corridors also take up the MRO by the private sector and encourage the private sector to establish MRO hubs in these corridors, then this will open up huge opportunities to the private sector, to the MSMEs for manufacture of spare parts and establishment of MRO hubs.
Thank you, sir. You have actually really covered the indigenization and its capability to support MRO activities, along with the other related issues, including the possibilities of private sector making its contribution even through the defense corridors. Now, sir, in the drive of indigenization, which is currently being progressed by the nation in the mission mode, the government organizations, the service organizations, the public sector undertakings, and private sectors, especially the larger entities, are all making a lot of efforts and they are growing. But there is one of the most important sector, that is the MSMEs, whose participation is basically very critical, not to support the big ticket production, but also to bring up the quality of life and well-being of our people, which is so important in India's growth story. So can MSMEs participate in these important MRO activities, and if so, how they can do that, sir?
Yeah, thank you, General Ashok. Again, important facet while we consider the self-reliance in defense. You spoke about the platform-based indigenization. Yes, platform-based indigenization is the big ticket indigenization, which could be taken up by the industry and maybe a few MSMEs who have the requisite financial resources. But there is another major area where MSMEs are even participating even today, and the participation can increase significantly in future. That is about the manufacture of assemblies, sub-assemblies, and modules, which I brought out, the non-availability of which is a major bottleneck in the MRO of the warlike equipment and weapon systems. Now, these assemblies and modules which are not available, where the supply sources have dried up, if the foreign OEM is not responding, or in case of the DPSUs and ordnance factories also, in case their capability does not match the requirement, there is a role for the MSMEs. And for items which are manufactured within India, there are drawings available. The MSMEs can access those drawings, those samples, and they can manufacture these items and meet the shortfall in requirement. As far as the imported equipment is there, where the sources of supply have dried up, there is scope for indigenization, which we have spoken about. So the MSMEs can participate in three ways: platform-based indigenization, which of course requires a lot of resources. Secondly, the manufacture of spares and assemblies which are of Indian origin, for which all the requisite technical details are available. And thirdly, manufacture of the modules, assemblies, and spare parts of foreign origin, for which they can, unleash their creativity and help in indigenization of the same. They're already doing it in to some extent, and there is need to further expand the scope and volume of the same activity.
Thank you, sir. In fact, in our journey on the MRO Digest forums, we keep getting a lot of queries from the manufacturers and industrial houses who are working in the MSME domain, sir. They were keen to know if they want to participate in the process of indigenization. Is there any organizational interface available to address their concerns?
Yes, I think their query is a genuine query. And yes, I would say there is elaborate interface available under the aegis of the Ministry of Defense. To begin with, I'll give example from the Army. We have those central ordnance depots which are responsible for provisioning and procuring all the requisite assemblies, sub-assemblies, modules, and spare parts. Now, these central ordnance depots have got something called Indigenization Subcommittee, which is the first level of interface with the private sector and MSMEs. There are yearly meetings, annual meetings, indigenization subcommittee meetings, in which the private sector participation is invited, and the items which are in short supply or which require indigenization, they are displayed for them to pick it up and take up the job. At the central level, there is a Directorate of Indigenization, full-fledged Directorate of Indigenization. The mandate of this Directorate of Indigenization is to indigenize imported stores and also stores where the ordnance factories and DPSUs have not been able to meet the supply requirements, to indigenize them as per the Defense Procurement Manual, DPM. So far, the Directorate of Indigenization has successfully indigenized thousands of items with the help of the private sector and MSMEs. Apart from that, under the Make in India program, the Master General of Ordnance Branch organizes regional meets, called Remicom. Periodically it is done every, in a year at 4 or 5 different places, where the industry representatives are invited and they are apprised of the requirement of the defense forces as far as the manufacture and indigenization is concerned. There are also, annual meets by the private sector, the Elsina in Bangalore or Codesia in Coimbatore, where there is significant army presence, all with the aim of apprising the private sector of what is required by the army as far as their requirements of spares, assemblies, and modules is concerned.
Thank you, sir. Actually, I'm quite confident that any person from the MSME domain who is interested to have his work done in the manufacturing sector or in other related fields, he or she will be more than happy to get these factual details. In the process of this interview, sir, you have already connected a lot of dots related to self-reliance in MRO of defense forces, but I'm tempted to ask you the last question, sir, before I thank you formally. And that is, sir, what is the recommended way forward for enhancing self-reliance in MRO of defense systems, sir?
Yeah, General Ashok, there is a lot more which can be done to enhance the self-reliance in MRO or defense systems. I will begin with the Make in India program, which our Honorable Prime Minister launched in September 2014. And the focus of this Make in India program, is to establish manufacturing hubs to manufacture things in India, not only for the Indian consumption, but for the world also. As far as defense is concerned, under this Make in India program, the defense industrial corridors have been established, whose job is to manufacture weapon systems or equipment required by the defense, has also to do import substitution, and also encourage exports of the items manufactured in India to other countries, to friendly foreign countries who may be, wanting to purchase it from India. In the current financial year, I think the Honorable Raksha Mantri has laid down a target of 17,000 crore for exports of the defense items. As of now, we have, BrahMos exporting the missiles to Philippines worth about 3,000 crore. Another order for Pinaka rockets by Malaysia, it is about 300 crores. Bharat Forge, getting an export order for its guns for about 1,250 crores. The Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, HAL, being in talk with 16 countries for export of the light combat aircraft Tejas, and which will be a historical first for India. And so all these things are going on. Why I'm bringing out this is, when we export items to other friendly foreign countries, and in the years this export activity increases, more and more items are made in India and exported, there will be requirement of maintaining them also, not only in India for the Indian defense forces, but for the defense forces of the friendly foreign countries also. So you would require establishment of MRO hubs. Now, if the manufacturer is in the public sector, that let's say the Hindustan Aeronautics and the Bharat Electronics Limiteds of the world, then they could take up MRO. But as the activity increases, I'm sure they would require collaboration with the private sector also to establish MRO hubs in India, which can grow into international MRO hubs. So I would say that, Make in India, an offshoot of this Make in India program can be maintained in India, where the public sector and the private sector collaborate and establish international hubs. Now, for this, concerted efforts would be required at all levels: the government policy making, the public sector, the private sector. As far as government sector is concerned, I feel they have to, enable in these defense industrial corridors the not only the manufacturing hubs, but the MRO hubs, and indigenization hubs, and to make policies which incentivize the establishment of these hubs. They can also come up with, a separate provision in the DPM. I'll extend the analogy of the Make 2 program in the acquisition of weapon systems and equipment, which is a opportunity. Make 2 program is an opportunity for private sector to you know manufacture equipment and then field it, propose it, and field it for induction in the Indian Defence Forces. And if it meets their requirement, the whole process of the acquisition, is supposed to be completed in a time-bound manner in about 70 weeks of time. Now, taking an analogy, extending this Make 2 program, I feel government can think of a Make 3 program for the MRO hubs, for indigenization, and for maintain in India under the Maintain in India program, or Make 3 procedure under DPM, which can wrap up the complete proceedings within 1 year. It will be a huge boost to the private sector to come in this MRO sector, indigenization sector, in a big way, without bothering that, after investing so much of time and effort, there may not be any orders forthcoming from the Indian defense, which actually has been the bane in the last few years. As far as private industry is concerned, I think the MRO industry, the way it is expanding, the private industry has a role here, and it's an opportunity which they can pick it up in a big way by, let's say, establishing MRO cells in each of their industry associations, whether it be CII or FICCI or ASSOCHAM. So once they focus on these MRO activities, on indigenization activities, they can establish hubs and they can collate the database of all trained technicians. There is no dearth of trained human resources available in India who can straight away take up the job or even get retrained when it comes to the newer equipment and the newer cutting edge technologies. The requirement is to keep a database and harness their talents and tap them when required. So this this kind of activity can very easily be undertaken by the private sector, by their industry associations. Ultimately, all these initiatives, whether the government sector, the DPSUs, or the private sector, all these initiatives have to coalesce together. They have to coalesce together and be part of what we have, Rising India and Atmanirbhar India, and we can say Make in India as also Maintain in India, and finally self-reliant MRO in defense systems.
Thank you very much, General Agrawal, for sparing your time and valuable thoughts on self-reliance in MRO in defense systems. In fact, I must admit that besides highlighting the factual data of the country and the world outside, you have made some path-breaking recommendations, projects like Make 3, which can really transform the country. Thank you, sir, once again. Gentlemen, here we come to the close of MRO Digest Dialogue. I, Major General Dr. Ashok Kumar, was your host for this session. We shall be coming up with more related subjects in days to come. Please log in and join the conversation and share your views and ideas on the MRO Digest forums.com. Thank you very much.